It's time to mind your business with me, Jamillah Lodge. Tune in to find out how to mind your business with BEDC, special guest entrepreneurs, industry experts, and more. Brought to you by BEDC. Bermuda Business starts here. Welcome to Mind Your Business. I am Jamillah Lodge, your host, and so happy to have you here, Rhea.
Yes.
Gibbons. In my head, I'm like ray of sunshine.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're here to talk about your entrepreneurial journey,
Yes.
your business, realizing the in-between art therapy. Okay, I'm gonna get these words right today. All right, so before we get started, I'd like to give you an opportunity. Just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, as you said, my name is Rhea. I am a professional art therapist. I love all things related to art, so music, dance, I sing.
Okay.
Just anything creative where I feel like it really foments expression of the self and being connected to what's going on the inside. I do yoga, I meditate, so that's also been the foundation of me creating this business.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you always know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
No, but I always knew I wanted to be an art therapist, at least since I was like 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
So explain to me the process of you getting to the art therapy part, because I didn't really know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So art therapies existed in really developed countries around the world since the 90s.
Okay.
I was at BHS doing IB, and we had to start sort of figuring out where we're going to apply to UCAS, what the journey was going to be. And as much as I was really gifted with science, I felt like I needed to follow a thing that felt right in my heart and felt good in my body. And that for me was making art.
Okay.
And then I was also studying at the same time peace and conflict. So a portion of that was studying social psychology. And there is like my sort of investigative brain went off and was like, oh, that's interesting. And just by luck, my mom came to me one day and she was like, there's this art therapy thing. Like, why don't you check it out? And I read about it and I was like, sounds like it could be it.
Yeah.
And then so I went to Lancaster in the United Kingdom and I did my bachelor's in fine art with a minor in psychology. Okay. And then I took some time for some life experience. I moved to China.
Nice.
I wanted to continue doing my master's, and I didn't want to go back to the UK because it's too cold for an island girl. So I moved to Barcelona, and I took 5 years or so there to do a postgrad, learn Spanish, do my master's. COVID. So things were a longer journey than anticipated. And then I finished in 2021 instead of 2020, which was when we were supposed to finish. And I said, cool, so now what's next?
Right.
What's next?
And so after you finished that, you were in Barcelona, you decided to come back here?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was aware that there were other art therapists and some creative therapists on the island. And oddly enough, despite it being such a creative city, Barcelona hasn't really fully accepted art therapy. I mean, it is a psychotherapy. There's so many people that could benefit from it there, especially because they are so forward-thinking. And strangely enough, Bermuda, sometimes as closed-minded as Bermudians can be, and we're used to our way of doing things, I found a lot of acceptance for what I had to bring and a lot of interest for what I had to bring back to the island. Okay. So I was really thankful. I'm still very thankful for that.
That's really awesome. So it sounds to me like, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, that you went through school, you had your life experience, and your first job was kind of working for yourself.
Yeah. I've always, my first job, my first real job as an adult was after I finished my my bachelor's. When I was in China, I was a primary school art teacher and English teacher at an international school there. So that was like being a teacher.
Yeah.
But it's really cool because it's translated also into using art therapy with kids. I don't just work with kids, but I have quite an extensive experience working with kids. But even in Spain, as I was studying, I worked at schools teaching English. So, but this is my first job that I'm like really passionate about, that my whole heart and my whole self is in it.
It's you. I mean, it's you, right?
Yeah.
It's a reflection of you,
Yeah,
and you get to
absolutely.
do what you want to do or what you know how to do
Mm-hmm.
the way you want to do
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about what it entails.
So it looks different depending on what collective you're with. So this morning I was at Westmeath. So art therapy there is a little bit more hands-on in terms of like supporting them, being the third hand. So sometimes what that is like hand over hand and helping them to draw shapes or asking them questions and being, or even giving an activity that's a little bit more directive. Whereas with other collectives, I might just be able to give a theme and say, okay, this is the theme, these are the materials that we have, let's see what happens, and then the real meat. I mean, the process itself is important, but we can really have that like psychotherapeutic in-depth conversation about what's happened, what memories came up, what somatic sensations did we sort of connect to in the body, what was the process like of making the artwork. So as much as it is art-based, a lot of the important part of the session can be talking about what it is that we've created. You know, to really start. Art making is quite bottom up, so we're using our sensory, we're using our kinesthetic senses, but then we were able to connect it to like that higher level thinking. I mean, sometimes it's the other way around, but a lot of times I find that people who don't have a lot of experience from art, if they can go in from the sensory aspect and just enjoying what they like to touch, and seeing how that makes their body feel is really one of the best ways to approach it, I think.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's like very interesting to me because I'm like, okay, this is a whole thing, and like you said, in Bermuda, typically we are not as open-minded as other jurisdictions, and to see that you received a very welcoming reception and people are actually utilizing your services. So in terms of how you merge that creative and the business part, like how is that going for you? Because you know what I mean, you work for somebody a few years, I would say, but really this whole business and running your own business and doing what you love, like how have you found that journey?
That I get my butt kicked every day. If I'm being honest. I'm an artist at heart.
Yes.
I'm an art therapist at heart, a therapist at heart. Being an entrepreneur is not my strong suit. So I've had to be open to learning the things that I'm not well versed in.
Okay.
And being able to see that those are areas for my development. The creative part is like, that's fine.
You got that. She's like, I got that down.
I mean, it's the biggest blessing that in groups I get to sit down and also make with them, you know, and that's an everyday thing. I still have my own creative practice, although it's not as in depth as it used to be when I had more time.
Right.
I'm sure that time will come when the business is a little bit more established, but it's the entrepreneurial side that needs my attention more than the creative side, in all fairness. Yeah.
Because right now, are you the primary?
Yes.
Yes. So you're the chief everything officer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I know that you are in our Enterprise Bermuda program, which is a 12-month incubation program to help with that part of it. And so was it your recognizing that you may not have that business that what prompted you to apply?
Yeah. So what it was is I've been operating now for 3 years as of January.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
And I was kind of just like, well, like, let's see what happens.
Okay.
Maybe this could be a thing. Maybe you'll crash and burn. I don't know. But if I don't try, I'm never going to find the answer.
That. Yeah.
And then it's been doing well. So if it can do well, like, how can it do better? Yeah.
Yes.
And since I live off of what I do, like, that's a huge blessing. I feel like that's a great milestone for me. I just was like, well, how can I... Then I actually need to commit to it being a thing.
Yes.
Then I need to commit to myself, and I need to commit to my business as this is what I'm going to do with my life. I've already seen that it's something that I can establish. It's something I can live off of. It's something that I can support other people with. So what else needs to happen in order for it to really flourish?
Right.
Yeah.
And so in the Enterprise Bermuda program, have you learned anything that you didn't know that can help you
Yeah.
to, okay.
So I just started my business by connecting here with organizations that I felt like they were supporting parts of our community that I felt were often overlooked. So
Yeah.
I've worked with Salvation Army. I work with Home currently. I've done a group for Women's Resource Center. And so that was my first, like, how can I... They already have a group of people. So if I pitch my services to them, they can link me up with, you know, the clients that they're serving.
Right.
But now with enterprise, what I'm seeing is that like I need to do my like I need to work on my canvas.
Yes.
And I need to figure out like what my what is it called?
The lean canvas.
Yeah,
your
the
business
lean
model?
canvas, but I can't remember. But
Minimum viable product.
No, oh my goodness, and this is where I slip on the lingo. But
Okay.
I'm figuring out what like my business cornerstones are. So like integrity. Creativity.
Yes.
You know, what is it that my business is actually built on so that my marketing reflects those values, my business values.
Yes.
Yeah. And those are things where like, it makes sense. Those are who I am as a person. I'm very much in my business as part of my business, but how do I
convey that
yeah,
to
exactly.
Yeah.
And how do I do it in such a way where it's like very obvious but not over the top?
Yes.
So just
authentic.
Really, exactly. And that's what I in speaking with Jackie this week, that's one of the things that came up, was that for me, anything that I do in terms of marketing, it has to be organic, it has to be authentic, it has to really reflect my values, which is that, you know, I really want my business to support people in being their most authentic selves. So that's
authenticity definitely will be one of those values. Yeah,
absolutely. So that's been really helpful, because again, that's that business mindset that I don't really have, but it just helps to give a clearer vision of where my business is going to go and what it really is and what it offers.
Yeah. And Jackie's one of the mentors, right?
Yes.
That you get to work with.
Yes.
For those who may not know, like, who is Jackie?
Yeah.
How do I get in touch with Jackie?
Yeah, Jackie's great. No, she really, the other thing is that she said to me, she was like, yeah, what you're doing is actually really important.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is a person who runs their own businesses, who like talks to people about their businesses every day, and she's really thinking that what I have to offer is important. It's not like my mom. It's not my family.
Your
I
friends,
love my mom. No,
they're your biggest cheerleaders.
Exactly. No, it's somebody that I don't know.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, no, this sounds great.
Yeah.
And some of the ideas that she had suggested to me were ideas of stuff that I had thought about launching in September anyway.
Okay.
So it's almost as though we had that sort of connection going on, and I was like, great, okay, so then I need to move forward. Then I need to do and not second guess myself.
Yeah, and don't. And I think that for me, I think I have seen those who've gone through the program, that it's giving you an opportunity to kind of work on the business part, right? Because you're doing the things, you're great at what you're doing, but like you said, for your business to grow and to expand, you got to do those things maybe that, you know, you wouldn't even think about. You're like, well, it's working. I'm doing, you know, people are paying me to do this. So it's definitely a need and a demand. And it's great that you kind of came across that organically. Like, you know what I mean? You just came home and people like, yes, sign me up. I need this in my life. So in terms of your customer base, and we're talking about marketing and reaching them, you mentioned organization. So is this, the services you provide, is this something that individuals can reach out to you and get to, or are there mostly groups that shout?
So I work with some groups because I think for me, and one of the reasons why I was like, the journey to studying psychology and working in the field of mental health was really important, because I've always felt like I noticed people that no one else noticed, or you look in somebody's eyes and you see them struggling and you're like, wow, like, I'd really like to listen to your story. And I found that I have a gift for allowing people to open up. So in coming back, one of the things I wanted to do was serve my community. And so from that came working with the organizations that I've been working with. But I've run women's groups. That's what I'm going to be starting in September, a monthly women's encounter where we just have a topic and we get to sit and make art together and talk, and it'll just be donation based. It's about creating community.
Yeah.
But anybody can reach out and we will talk about, you know, do a regular intake for like a psychotherapy intake. What is it that you know, what's your life experience been like? What are your struggles right now? What is it that you're looking to get out of art therapy, and can I actually help you?
Yeah. That's really cool. Well, we heard it here. September, we'll be launching this new new venture, or new piece of this whole business venture. So to that end, in your mind, when you think about the business and when it's fully grown and has blossomed into your wildest dreams, what does that look like for you?
My wildest dream for my business, that it's not really a dream, because I'm going to make it reality. And every day that's what I work towards, is that I would like to own a farm and host experiences for people in an environment where they feel safe, where they can reconnect to the earth, where they can reconnect to themselves, and using nature as like a cornerstone for really the psychotherapeutic work that can take place in art therapy as part of the integral part of the setting, going on walks, really tapping into the parasympathetic nervous system to feel safe, and working through, you know, any traumas that they might have, organizing encounters for families. I think a lot of the time in the day-to-day we don't spend that beautiful time making memories and really appreciating what it's like that we are able to meet and spend time with one another and really spend life together. Like, what does that mean?
Right.
We get caught up in our we have tos. It has to look like this, and it doesn't. If you were to just be and to enjoy the presence of that person, what would that be like?
Right.
So I see this to be almost like a sacred place.
Yeah.
With lots of plants nestled in nature, where we can do things like garden and make site-specific artworks and go for walks and come in and use pigments that we've made in nature and make some art. And
that is so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so with regard to that, like, what's your timeline? So when do you think, you know, you would like to see that happening?
I give myself like 2.5 years.
Girl, look, I love you. You are like, we are not wasting any time here. We are making this happen. I love it. And so to that end, when you say like a farm, I don't think people may not understand how small Bermuda is, like 21 square miles. So is that something you want to do here?
I'm looking overseas to buy a property. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, look, the thought of it and what you described, I think that would work well here. And maybe as you lead up to do that or to go overseas, you could partner with existing farms.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah, just to see how it goes and things like that.
And what it could be like.
Yeah. So people can get an opportunity to experience that here locally, so that as you move along in your journey, and purchase land somewhere else, that at least you would have had, or we would have had a chance to benefit.
Run,
yes, to see how it goes and people's feedback and all of that. Okay, so now does that mean we're having multiple locations of the art therapy business, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's also, that's what I'm transitioning to in the business now, is that there's some things that will have to be done online, especially while I'm making that transition. But I always see myself coming back here. I was off island for 10, 11 years, and I was always back here. I would organize cleanups in the summer for the marine environment. So I always see myself giving back and supporting my community here as much as possible.
Yes.
And supporting my people.
Yeah.
So I will always be back here organizing events and workshops and, you know, trying to use the knowledge that I've gained elsewhere to just uplift my community. That's what it's about at the end of the day for me.
Yeah, I love that. So in that regard, to be an art therapist, is it something that you have to go to school for training? Okay. So is there any piece of it? I guess what I'm trying to envision is, let's say, for lack of a better word or a better descriptor, we franchise what you're doing. Is there any reality where you could like train someone to do some of the basic things that wouldn't necessarily require the analysis part of it? Or do you have to have certified, licensed therapists to be able to deliver the services that you're proposing?
You do. Just because also It's one of those things where the well-being of the person is
Yes.
always front and center, and what we don't want in any situation is to be causing harm.
Right.
There are different professions that I suppose like I've been assisted with. So I also work part-time at Maui, and I've had OTs help me, and they bring a different perspective.
Okay.
They think a lot about like you know, how the person is using their implement, or what could be a good way for them to enter into the activity in terms of like what they're capable of doing. So there's different, I guess, yes and no. I think if we were going on like nature trips, it's something that somebody else could support and assist with. And even there's, you know, there's therapeutic art where you have some objectives, but obviously it's not art therapy because they're not an art therapist. But objectives like bringing somebody into the here and now, or connecting with, you know, the moment and what they would like to express. That's not, I mean, that's something that somebody else could hold the space for.
Right. It's just interesting to think about how you could, like you said, expand outside of Bermuda and still provide some service here, even though you may not be the person doing it. But I guess you could always encourage people to go into art therapy and hire therapists to work with you. And then as you were talking, I'm like, is this something, or have you ever considered doing it online? You know how they're doing like online therapy and stuff. Yeah.
So that's what I was saying with the transition and doing some stuff. There's gonna have to be stuff done online.
Yeah.
I have not tried doing it online yet, but I have friends that work online, and you know, it's one of those things where it's another learning experience.
Yeah.
You know, to see how it would be approached. But also post-COVID, a lot of things have been done online that previously we never thought that could happen. So there is literature, a wealth of literature about art therapy online. There's like short courses to also give you the tools to be able to feel comfortable to do it online. So it's not impossible. Yeah.
And I think that still gives you, or can create that connection, right? That you said that you want to maintain.
And I think so. One of the things that I'm working on as well is making short, like mini-series, material series online, focused on like specific goals. So one of them could be working on boundaries, creating boundaries, working on creating internal structure. And these are things that people could do in their own time with a few materials and just a sketchbook. So giving them exercises that are like similar to things that we would do in art therapy. Obviously, it's not art therapy, but it's something that they can use for their inner exploration, the same as like a self-help book. So those are sort of like mini programs that I'm creating. There is a 10-week series exploring your inner world that I'm going to launch, which would be an online group.
That's awesome.
So there are certain things I want
Look
my
at
reach
you,
to be.
Entrepreneur. Look at me over here. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, there are certain things that I want to be able to offer and to increase my reach.
Yeah.
But it just takes some time to get all those things sorted out. So I'm just being kind to myself because I'm still working on the ground as my
you're the
see
person.
Everything.
Yes,
and
that's right.
So I it's just taking it a step at a time right now. Yeah.
But I love how you are approaching it, and I don't even know that you are doing this like on purpose with a money goal. I just think you're doing it. It sounds to me like you're doing it because you just really want to ensure that you're helping people and extending the reach. But like from a business perspective, we're like, okay, you have to figure out ways to get passive income. You have to create these, you know what I mean? So it's like you're doing or thinking all the right things. So even though you don't think you have it, you have it.
Well, thanks.
Like,
Thanks.
you're already doing it. And I think it's great because a lot of times when you speak to creatives, one of the issues is how do you monetize the thing that they love to do. You know what I mean?
So my parents sat me down about that a long time ago. And they're always very supportive of where I wanted to take art, but it was always like, well, you have to do something with it. So in the back of my mind, I do have that. I'm not going to pretend that it's all completely altruistic. I have to live. I have to survive. There's some studying I would like to do in the next year and a half or so, just to get a greater knowledge there's a course specifically for art therapy and trauma. There's this course specifically about art therapy and nature-based art therapy. So being online will also allow me more flexibility to do those things. So I'm trying to figure out how can I continue to run the business, because I do love it, because I see that it's being successful, because I'm sort of pacifying those internal, like I would really like to help that sort of internal need for myself. And then what I feel like is my mission here on Earth.
Right.
But I also have to pay groceries and electricity and my cat's vet bills. I had to sort of land in reality. It would be so nice to be able to do this for free and to have somebody just be like, here, take this money and do what you need to do. And
express yourself.
We love your vision, but that's not the reality of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I sort of had to also bite that bullet and just not be so idealistic in my thinking around that. Yeah.
That's good. I mean, your parents did you a service for that. And so in your lifetime, either your parents or family, did you see someone along their own entrepreneurial journey? Were there entrepreneurs in your life that you can say, oh, okay, yeah, no?
So I'm the first person that has lived entirely off their business.
Okay.
My auntie did like cakes and cupcakes, a side hustle that they were amazing, and I was like, why don't you
just make it full? Yeah.
And she was like, no. And my mom has now also doing yoga as a professional yoga therapist, and so I'm sort of helping her and being like, this is what's worked for me. I'm not a I mean, I am technically.
Yeah, you are.
I
Stop saying that. You are. You are 3 years in. That's commendable.
But I just remember before my dad passed away, it was one of the things that we talked about, that as much as being a business owner is a lot of effort, it's also really rewarding, and you learn a lot about yourself, but there's a greater sense of autonomy than when you get up and you go to work for somebody else.
Yes.
At the end of the day, you care a lot about you, yourself, your well-being. You should. As a human being, more than any corporation is ever going to care about you.
That is facts, yes.
And so in working for myself, I've also given myself the flexibility, also as somebody who's neurodivergent, to be able to give me what I need and to nurture myself. And that's also a steep learning curve. But it's something that I have to do for me, and working for other people, I don't have that same grace. Right. Where I feel like I have to explain why. Why?
Yeah.
Just because today is not the day. I'm taking a mental health day.
That's
today
right.
I'm not doing it, and that's totally okay.
Yeah. I wish, if anybody's listening in the corporate world, that is a thing. You have to give yourself grace, and if you want people to show up and be their best selves and to do the best for you, sometimes they need the time. I'm like, why does it have to be a vacation day? Can it be a mental health day?
Can it be a mental health day?
Please
say that aloud. Can it be a mental health day?
A mental health day.
Yes.
Because right now, all of this, I can't.
And then if I pop off in the office because I'm not being professional, whose fault is it?
Whose fault?
Yours.
I gave you fair warning.
Yep.
And now you just got to deal with the aftermath. Yep. So I am all for that, because it's true. Sometimes you're not physically sick in that you can't see it. I don't have a cough or sore throat but mentally I'm just not prepared to engage and do the things I know I need to do for you as your employee or whatever the case may be. So I definitely appreciate that when you have your own job and you have your own business, I should say, you get to dictate what that looks like. And you do have mental health days.
Absolutely.
All right. So one of the things I want to talk about is, you mentioned that you're neurodivergent. That's a long word, and not everybody knows what that means. Would you care to kind of expound on what that is and what that means and how it's impacted your ability to kind of navigate this journey?
So I would put myself on the ADHD spectrum.
Okay.
Where it's difficult to focus. I have lots of thoughts. I bounce around sometimes. And it's hard to be centered and not get distracted by everything that's going on. working for myself, one of the things that's a must but it's also the space I give myself is meditation first thing in the morning.
Okay.
And then some sort of movement practice. So sometimes it's going for a walk, sometimes it's yoga in the morning, sometimes it's pole dancing in the evening, but it's giving myself the time where I can do those things so that I can be more structured. I make a lot of lists. I have a calendar so I can note down who comes, who's in the show, who's this, that, and the other. And but it's challenging, especially because for me, you get that sort of neurodivergent freeze where there's so much going on. You're like, how do I break off these into small tasks so I don't get overwhelmed, especially being a business owner, to get things done. And some days it's, again, just giving myself grace. I can fall apart today. Today I don't need to do anything. It'll get done when it gets done. It also doesn't need to get done at 9 to 5. It can get done at 7:30 on a Friday evening because that's when it can get done, or at 11 o'clock on Sunday, or it gets done when it gets done.
You know what? I'm just in here listening to you, and I'm like, you are so wise. Now, I'm making assumptions that you are a young person. You're definitely younger than I am, and I'm 50. So that you are here in this space, I think it's wonderful. And I think it's something that a lot of people aspire to be able to do, is to accept this is what it is. This is what I need to be able to get things done. And so I think, based on what you said in your story and how you arrived, I'm extremely impressed. And I'm like, was it the therapy classes? Like, what? How did you get here, ma'am? Or were you just always this way? Because it takes a lot. Like sometimes, especially if you're running your own business, you don't give yourself grace. And you are hard on yourself because you're like, I have all this stuff to do. I haven't done it. Like, I'm failing. I suck. You know what I mean? And so to hear you say, look, it'll just get done tomorrow. Like, I can't do it right now. It's like, how are you so wise? And so young.
But that's something that I want to really transmit to any of my clients.
Yeah.
That's just the radical self-acceptance, just being who you are.
Yeah.
For me last night, it's 9:30. I can't do any more work today,
yeah.
But I can wake up at 6 this morning, look over my notes for our podcast today, figure out in my head how things might go, and then go back and have a nap and do my meditation. And it's just finding time. But I think it's giving yourself permission to realize that the time that you need is not always within the capitalist agenda, and that's totally okay.
Listen, she said it, y'all. Time is out. I know, right?
Gosh.
I'm like, I'm taking notes. I'm like, we can talk all day. We might have to do a part 2. But before you go, I'd like you to just, any encouraging words for someone who's in the creative space, is trying to figure out their way and how they could potentially make their business work for them. Any encouraging words you have for someone looking to start their own entrepreneurial journey?
That authenticity, I think, always wins.
Okay.
At least for me, going about things with money in mind hasn't been the best way moving forward. See what it is that you can bring to your community and how you can serve, and I don't think you can ever go wrong with that. When you find your unique flavor, things just start to flourish. And I think that's something that's really important. Having the confidence to know that what you bring to the table, what is uniquely yours, will land for the right people, and that you don't need to be anything any way other than what you already are.
Great advice. So if people are like moved and they're like, yes, sign me up, how do they contact you?
We can do email.
Okay.
We can do Instagram. So it's just realizing the in-between, realizing with an S. This is not an easy thing to spell. At gmail.com, or just realizing the in-between on Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for
very
minding your
much for
business
having
with
me.
us.
Yes.
It's been really, really great speaking with you, and I'm wishing you continuous success in the program. And I'm hoping that at the end of the 12 months, you are hitting those marks and you're closer to your big, big vision.
I will be. I know it.
I know you will, too.
I'm feeling the support. And
you will definitely be. I'm not worried at all. Well, thank you so much again for minding your business with us. And remember, if you don't mind your business, who will? Thanks for tuning in to Mind Your Business with me, your host, Jamillah Lodge. Tune in next week, Thursday at 4 p.m. because if you don't mind your business, who will? Mind Your Business is brought to you by BEDC. Bermuda Business starts here.